Apple fans, Apple sheep, and anyone else out there watching. Richard here with another episode of iTalk. And in this one, we are talking the brand new October event where Apple just announced the brand new lineup of the MacBook Pro. Stay tuned, it's coming up right after the intro. All right, we're back, and there's a lot to unpack with this relatively short October event that Apple just had. It lasted just over 50 minutes. They announced updates to music, updates to AirPods, blah, 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 and we're really here to talk about the MacBook Pro and the upgrades to that. So let's get started right now. So they announced two new processors, not just one, which absolutely blew me away. I was not expecting that at all. They announced the M1 Pro and the M1 Max. Let's start with the M1 Pro. Apple is saying that it's up to 200 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth. This is 3 times faster than the M1. If you thought M1 was fast, if you thought M1 was a really good processor, these two just blow the M1 and pretty much everything else out on the market out of the water. So, like I said, up to 200 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth, 3 times the M1, up to 32 gigs of unified memory on M1 Pro, and these are all on 5 nanometer processes now. 33.7 billion transistors, which is more than 2 times M1. They didn't talk about this on the event, but Johnny Srouji said that starting with 10 cores, actually the M1 Pro starts with 8 cores for the 14-inch model. So the 8-core processor has 2 efficiency cores and 6 performance cores. So remember, M1 is 4 and 4. It's 4 efficiency cores and 4 high performance cores. So the M1 Pro definitely, even with 8 cores, the same as M1, it leans very heavily toward the performance side of the processor. The 16-inch MacBook Pro starts with 10 cores, 8 performance and 2 efficiency cores, and Apple is saying up to 70% faster than M1. And M1 is a great chip. So these numbers are just mind-blowing. Okay, GPU. All right, let's look at the GPU on the M1 Pro. It starts at 14 cores and is configurable up to 24 cores. The media engine is now ProRes for super high quality video production and allows multiple streams of 4K and 8K ProRes video. And all of this is at a fraction of the power consumption of pretty much everything else out there on the market. All right, let's take a look at some key differences between the M1 Max and the M1 Pro. The M1 Max goes up to a staggering 400 gigabytes per second memory bandwidth, which is 2 times M1 Pro and 6 times M1. I mean, that just... up to 64 gigabytes of unified memory, 57 billion transistors, 1.7 times the M1 Pro, and 3.5 times M1. All right, let's talk about the GPU on M1 Max. It starts at 24 cores and is configurable up to 32 cores. The media engine has 2 times faster encoding than M1 Pro and has 2 ProRes accelerations on the SoC. And again, all of this is at super performance per watt efficiency. M1, just in summary, M1 Pro, M1 Max just blows away all of the other PC chips in CPU and GPU performance, and at the same time still uses significantly less power. These chips are a game changer, and it just really makes me wonder, what are they going to do with the iMac and the Mac Pro. I mean, these things, these two chips are absolutely mind-numbing. And again, I did not expect two processors to be announced today. I expected one which you could configure on the 14 and the 16 inch, but this is super exciting. And as soon as I'm done with making this video and editing it, I'm ordering a 16 inch MacBook Pro. So, and I can't wait. Okay. So let's talk about pricing real quick. The 14-inch model starts at $1999 for the 8-core CPU, 14-core GPU, 16 gig unified memory with 512 gigs of SSD storage. And that one starts at $1999. There is an upgraded 14-inch model that starts with a 10-core CPU, 16-core GPU, 16 gigs of unified memory, and starts with 1 terabyte of SSD storage for $24.99. These are both configurable, and you can actually get either one of these with the M1 Max. If you're going to put the M1 Max in the 14-inch, I would just start with the 10-core GPU model for the $24.99, because you're probably going to end up spending more if you upgrade the entry-level $19.99 model with all of that. So check out the pricing and see how it works out. But the 14-inch model, you can configure it with the M1 Max. The 16-inch model, there's 3 different pricing categories for that, starting at $24.99 for 10-core CPU, 16-core GPU, 16 gigs of memory, and 512 gigs of SSD storage. The next one up starts at $26.99 and starts with a 10-core CPU, 16-core GPU, 16 gigs of unified memory, and 1 terabyte of SSD storage. And the highest end model starts at $34.99, and that one is with the M1 Max processor, 10-core CPU, 32-core GPU, 32 gigs of unified memory, and 1 terabyte of SSD storage to start. These are all configurable to what you need, and I pretty much maxed out the most expensive one when I priced it, and it was about $42.99, which is actually what I paid for, and I actually upgraded it to 2 terabytes when I priced it out, and that was actually maybe $100 more than this 16-inch MacBook Pro that I bought in 2016. So, you know, they've kept the prices pretty stable, which is really impressive for this just mind-numbing, mind-blowing technology that has really revolutionized not just Apple, but the entire personal computing industry. Check out Apple's website, play around with the configurations, but I can't wait to get my hands on one of these and start to try it out and play with it with Final Cut Pro and just see exactly how fast this thing can go and how efficient it is. I'm tired of listening to the fan on this one when I use Final Cut Pro, so you know, I'm just looking forward to a massive upgrade on my laptop. So that wraps it up for this video. This is Richard, this is iTalk. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, comment, and hit the bell so you don't miss an iTalk video. I'm Richard, this is iTalk. We'll catch you on the flip side. We're out.